Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So this is not a devlog, it's something different, and this is a tutorial video. Many people have been asking me, how do you make a dialogue system in Godot? Now this is a very simple task, but I'm kinda surprised that not many people know about it and they're still struggling to make a simple dialogue system. So this is how I made my dialogue system. Now I'm not the best at making tutorials, so pardon me. So yeah, let's get into it. Alright, hello there, and we're on our PC now. The audio quality is going to be pretty bad because I normally use a better quality mic to do my voiceovers, but now I'm actually going to be doing a tutorial, so I have to speak while I'm recording. So yeah, I'm really sorry if the audio is bad, but I really hope you enjoyed the video as well. Let's get into it. So beforehand, I set up a small scene. It's nothing too crazy, it's just a time lapse and a player that can move around. So if I hit the play button, it's just a green player. He can move around and that's all he can do for now. So I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a dialog box, and I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make an NPC that you can interact when you press a button, when you're close to it. Sounds good, let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to create a new scene, another node. I'm going to make it a control node. And there we go. Layout to full right. Then we're going to create another control node. And I'm just going to call this one Dialog Box. And full right. Now we're going to create a texture rect. And for the texture rect, you can choose whatever background image you want for your game. So for the background, I'm going to drag in my sprite for the background. You know, that's pretty standard. So now we're going to create a rich text label. And as you can see here, it's pretty, and you basically have to align the rich text label here to the size. So this inside of this box is where all your text is gonna appear. So it's important you fix it to the size of your sprite so it doesn't look off. Now for this part, we can go to custom fonts, and you can just select a new font if you want. I won't be going too much into that, but we have BB code here. You want to go to BB code and enable it. So we can type something simple like hello. You can do whatever you want, to be honest. I haven't imported any fonts, but if you want to use a custom font, all you have to do is go to custom fonts, normal font, click new dynamic font, and load it in. It's pretty simple. If you have any problems, let me know in the comments. So how we're going to be doing this is, you can see this percent visible variable here. So if we actually drag the slider, you can see that it's printing out the hello. That's how we're going to be doing it. It's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. Now we're going to create a sprite. So I have a pretty basic indicator sprite here. We're going to bring it right here. And now what we want to do is create a animation player. And now all we have to do, I'm going to create a new animation. I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call it idle. And then we can create an animation where we're going to bob this thing up and down. So, and add a whole new one. So, it's a sprite, add keyframe, create, another one, okay, so now what we want to do is create a new node called tween. Put it right there. And now we're going to create the script. I'm just going to call it Dialog Box, and here we are. So we're going to create a variable dialog equals go. So this is where you're going to be putting your text. So when you click on the NPC, which we're going to be getting into later, this is where you put text, where it speaks. So I'm going to be doing something pretty simple, like hello there, and comma, then again, my name is Blob. So you can get creative and you can put whatever you want your NPC or dialog box to say right here. So I'm going to make another variable called dialog index equals 0 and var finish equals false. Now we're going to be creating our functions, and that would be function ready function. You can just pass it. I'll be getting into their uses soon. And we're going to create a physics process and pass it to, and then create another, and then we're going to create a custom function called load dialog. We're going to pass it to. So in the ready function, we're going to do the dialog function. So, but this is basically doing is whenever the script starts, it will be loading this function. Now in our physics process function, we are going to instance our indicator. We can rename our sprite to ind. So yeah, there we go. Indicator dot visible equals finished. So now we're gonna do if input dot is action just pressed. You can put whatever keybind you want. I'm gonna be using UI except for this one. And once you do this, we're going to load dialog. So let's get into our load dialog function. So we're going to start off by writing an if statement. If dialog index is smaller than dialog dot size finished equals false. We're gonna get our rich text label dot bb code text equals dialog index. There we go. And we're gonna go to rich text label dot percent visible, the variable I was talking about earlier. We're gonna set it to 0. Now we're gonna go and reference our tween dot interpolate property, and we do that. Rich text label dot percent visible equals 0, 1, 1. And then tween dot trans see, put that right there. Tween dot ease in out. Tween dot stop. Else we're gonna queue for it. So dialog index plus equals 1, and that's all the code for the load dialog function. Now if you want a lot more information about everything, a detailed explanation of how everything works, I have a video linked in the description down below. That video definitely has a better explanation than I do, so yeah. Now what we want to do is go to our tween and click on the node button, and we can see tween completed here. So we're gonna click on this one and connect it. So as you can see here, our function was created in our dialog box function. This function we're simply going to do finished equals true. And we're just gonna save this scene as dialog box. So that's literally all the code for the dialog box. Now we're gonna be looking at how to create a basic NPC that you can click a button to interact with, and this dialog will open there. It's pretty simple, so let's get right into it. Another thing you want to do is make this invisible so that this part of the code can actually work. So with that being said, let's save up and let's go back to our stage 1 scene here. So it's pretty simple, and now let's create an NPC. So let's create a new scene and let's click on a new node, area 2D. We're going to create an area 2D node and then create a collision shape 2D, and we're going to set this to a capsule collider. Now you want to create another scene. We're going to create an animated sprite. This is basically where you want to put your art for the NPC, so I'm just gonna create a new sprite frames and create this one. So I went ahead and imported my NPC artwork. You can replace it with whatever you want, so I'm just gonna put that, and then I'm going to decrease the frame rate to about 2 FPS. That should do, and we're gonna loop it. It's pretty simple, and that's all we want to do for that. So I'm gonna click out of this one. So if we do play it, you can see he's just bobbing his head. It's pretty simple, so yeah. Now we're gonna create a new scene or a script. I'm gonna create a new script and I'm gonna call it NPC. And once we're here, we're just gonna get rid of everything here. And let's start off by actually creating a function. Physics process, and I'm just gonna start playing the animation right there. We need to create a variable called interactable, or let's just call it can interact for simplicity, equals false. And then we're gonna create a constant. We're gonna call it dialog equals preload, and here we're going to preload our dialog box scene. So right here we're gonna go res and dialog box. .tscn. So this is the path to the dialog box right here. So if you named it something else, you want to replace this thing with what you named your scene when saving. So now what we want to do is click on our area 2D, go to nodes, and click on the body entered signal, connect it to our script, and we're gonna again go to this thing and click on the body exited thing and connect it to our script. Now we have our two functions. So now what we're gonna do is a pretty optional thing, but it's actually pretty cool. This is completely optional, but I'd like to do it anyways because it just gives a nice aesthetic to the game. So we're gonna create a label, and in the label we're just gonna put some text. Interact E3.8. Oh no, my bad. Something like 0.3 would do. Yep, looks good in my opinion. So let's put that right there. You can put it wherever you want, but it looks cooler this way. So yeah, I'm gonna toggle this thing. So in here, we can make it invisible. Go back to our script, and when body entered, we can then go instance label, prefer label, and visible equals true, and we're gonna do can interact equals true. And now when the player leaves the body, we're gonna do label dot visible equals false, and we're gonna turn can interact equals false too. There's one more thing we have to do, and that is to write an if statement. If body dot name equals to So we need to rename this to player. Our script, and do player. So here we go. Click on this, bring it there. And here as well, if body dot name equals player. So this stuff and type it. So what this if statement is doing is that when a body collides with the area 2D, it checks whether the name of that body is player, and then this happens. So it's pretty self-explanatory, I guess. Now we're gonna save the scene. I'm just gonna call it NPC. There we go. That is not all. So we're just gonna save there. Let's go. So now that we have that done, yeah, there we go. That should now work. So as you can see here, when we walk to him, the text pops up right there, and when we move out of his radius, it just disappears. So that is what we want. I am going to put that below there. So yeah. Now let's actually get into making it work properly. And let's get the dialogue system working, and that's literally everything that needs to be done. So we're gonna create a new function. We're gonna call it an input event function. We're gonna pass it for now. We're going to create an if statement. We're gonna call it input dot whatever the key. So right now our key is key pressed. We're gonna call it key E, and we're gonna do and can interact equals true. And now we're gonna put in here label dot hide simple equals false. So there we go. And now what we're going to be doing is using our preload here to make the dialog box pop up. This is very easy to do, so we're going to do here. What we're going to do is create a variable. We're going to call it dialog, and we're going to do dialog dot instance. Now what we're going to be doing is get parent dot add child dialog. As you can see here, what we're doing is instancing the scene, and we're creating a dialog. Before we test this out, one thing I did forget to mention was in your animation player, in your idle animation, where you basically made this indicator here. What you want to do is click this little button here, autoplay unload. So what this is going to do is that whenever you start the scene, it will actually automatically start playing. So I'm right here. As you can see, I'm working fine, and when we work close to the NPC, we can see that the interact key pops up, and once we do, if we hit E, so our dialog box pops up, and our indicator here pops up as well. And if we hit the enter button, it slowly just brings that up. My name is Blob. So if we hit E again, hello there, my name is Blob. So yeah.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.